the musculoskeletal. We had that one review. So in breaking all of that down, and then we had our medical decision-making, which for low complexity, we had to have 2 out of 3, right? We knew it was a self-limited or minor, correct? Because it was the knee. It was an established problem. Patient had already had that. And it was worsening, of course. But if we kind of took all of that information and broke it down, we're looking at essentially 2 points in that category. Because we had the 2 PHI. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, code 213 on the ROS. 213 by saying an expanded problem-focused examination, meaning more than one organ system.
It is an expanded problem-focused history. Let me take a look at the code.
That's where,
So 99213. Was your question on the expanded problem-focused examination or history?
yeah, the examination.
But keep in mind, we need 2 out of 3. So this is where I'm showing you that this can be tricky. E&M coding can be tricky because we do have 2 out of 3, right? So we're going to look at a couple of other examples, just to kind of give you an idea for this.
I tried to use those tables to show them.
Yeah,
But it said,
to match them up in the,
right, but where on the tables, maybe I'm just spacing it now, but the ROS, where on the tables is the ROS?
well, that would be under for your exam, your history and your exam.
Right, so now, so 212 was, had an excellent problem focus, and 213 had an excellent expanding problem focus.
On the first and 212, it has no ROS class, and it did one ROS.
Where's the single ROS?
On our notes on our actually PowerPoint.
And
But I'm
what's
not
the
seeing that. It says it on that same list as well.
212?
Under 212, yeah, that would require no review of system.
When we talked about in the lecture, when we did talk about that, the low complexity, not low complexity. But when we had the, trying to find the exact slides, we can let you know the page number. So that for problem-focused history on page 5,
Yeah.
you can see that. So that's why we actually bumped it up to the expanded problem-focused history, because for that one, we have the review of systems pertains to the problem itself. You see that? Does it make rationale? Do you see the rationale behind it? All right, let's try a couple of examples from tonight's homework. The first example that I was actually going to give you, number 4, is code 99212. So if you want to take a look at the documentation of that one, to further understand the rationale behind that, of course, this is a patient that's coming in with a cough and a sore throat, and they did a problem-focused history, expanded problem-focused exam. The medical decision was straightforward. So this kind of gives you a little bit more your information's a little bit more straightforward in these examples. What's that?
Because it's after 3 years.
Well, we've got, let's see, date of the service was 2011. It's an office visit, and last date is 2/12/8. So does that fall 8, 9, 10, 11? So it would be 2/12/11. So just barely missing, falling into that 3-year mark. Can everybody see that?
So when it's.
Do my math right?
So, so
Number 4 on the homework assignment. Oh, that's okay, that's okay.
so once it's been 3, oh, sorry.
This would be, am I doing my math right, guys? I am.
It is just.
Just under 3 years by a month, so yeah. This one's just under, but if this were a month later and it fell outside the window, it would be a new patient. Can everybody understand that? Because it's outside of that 3-year window. And typically, the patient's records, would have to be, think about a preventative care. Initially, you see a physician annually, right? So your health record is being updated annually. If you have 3 years that lapse, you would be considered an inpatient, and you have to go through that whole restarting that entire medical record. So it is much more time consuming.
So you're saying this number 4 would be 99212?
On number 4,
But yet it says, this one, an expanded problem focused examination in the description, but on 99212 in the book, it says a problem focused examination. Different on the need to know.
but how many components do you need on that one? So 99212. 99212 is problem focused, which we have. Okay, I see what you're saying, the expanded problem focused. Then the medical decision making is straightforward, and your MDM is straightforward, right? What else am I looking for? But again, that's 2 out of 3, right? So it does fall into the 2 out of 3. That's why this is tricky. This is
You're
actually-
saying 2 out of 3, I think that's what I'm getting confused. You're saying 2 out of the 3 of a problem focused history, problem focused examination, and straightforward medical decision making. I'm
Exactly.
thinking I mean 2 out of 3 of each of the components that make up those categories.
If you look at this sheet, again, the CMS tool, you have 1, 2, and 3. Those are our 3 key components. So we have 1, 2, and 3. We have level of service on the back is 4. So we've got our components of EM coding broken down here. And each of those separate sections had those different factors that we need to calculate or abstract or kind of count. So for each of these elements, the 2 out of 3 are referring to the history, the examination, and the medical decision making, 3 main elements. And then each of those 3 elements are broken down in either 4 or 6 separate components, or up to 14 if we talk in review of systems. Yeah,
I actually want you to take a look at the table.
I didn't hear that.
I actually want you to take a look here at my table so that I can.
You can see it? So there's your place of service. So the office was the place of service on that one, right? And then we've determined that it's an established patient, okay? So we have our required key components. We know that it's a problem-focused history. And then we also have our expanded problem-focused almost as though you have to kind of be one step ahead in looking at the information and kind of, what's that? You do gotta let it marinate first, I'm telling you. This is why E&M coders actually get paid more. Because this is probably the most complex section of the evaluation or the CPT manual. And this type of coding, so much money is lost. So much money is lost because people don't understand the concept of the coding and what data you need to abstract. So this is very lucrative, this portion of the CPT. You have some people, and of course, when you get out there in industry and you become specialty specific, and some people prefer coding and ICD, some people prefer the CPT, but this is one of those areas of specialty, evaluation and management. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I would say we're supposed to be able to look up like that example in the index somewhere.
You can look up different scenarios in the Appendix C to get an idea of how they break down some of the established and new patients. You can see how they break down some of the evaluation management codes in that particular section as well, like some of the codes that they apply. In the
Regular readers or it's in the
No,
evaluation
not
management?
necessarily. I don't really have luck in the index with E&M. I go for those tables. I go for those tables in the front. I kind of break down my information from my case or my record, break it down by those different levels, those different, those factors, those 3 factors, break it down a little bit, and then break it down a little bit further. If you want to use the tool from CMS, like I said, you'd be photocopying that for every single chart. Eventually, like everything else, the more times you ride a bike, the better you get at it. So, what was your question, Susan?
I just wanted to know, do coders get into this kind of coding after they've been in the coding field for a while, or because they, kind of have
If
their...
it were me, I'd rocket going in for that test. That way they say, whoa, they know E&M, because so many people
It's
just
impressive.
want to, it is impressive.
Okay, because it's so hard.
Right.
So is it just like practice, like
Practice,
everything?
yeah,
Okay.
just like everything else. The more you practice, the better that you're gonna get at it, and taking a look at some of those scenarios and just kind of honing those skills, because assigning the appropriate E&M it's absolutely, that's where a lot of money is, because a lot of people tend to be like, oh.
Right.
And training those physicians, getting those physicians to dot their I's and cross their T's and include the documentation that's needed for you to appropriately code. Once you train them, it makes your job 10 times easier. So knowing what these components are and really digesting what these components are and saying this is what is required and educating them on this, I mean, that's a match made in heaven, right?
Is that a hard process? Because Angelique will tell me, the doctors don't like sometimes the coders.
I don't think that it's necessarily, I have actually, on more than one occasion, I've had a few physicians where we just have butt heads, and I actually turned around one day and said to one of the physicians, he made a comment to me like, you can't tell me what to do. And I turned around and I said, I'm trying to help you. I said, you're insulting my level of intelligence, and I think that by my coming back and kind of putting him in his place, it was just kind of, there wasn't any type of reprimand or anything, but it was, I opened his eyes to a degree, because it's, do you want to get reimbursed what you could be getting reimbursed? Cooperate with me a little bit and we can work together on this. Otherwise, you're losing, and because of your ignorance, and I don't want to say ignorance to a physician, but because of your ignorance, you want to lose out. I mean, I think that now that you have more and more, I don't want to say younger physicians entering the field, but you do, and they're more willing to actually work with the coders and the HIM professionals in assisting. Before it was kind of, they had that barrier up and looked down at you because you're just a clerk. You were just a clerk, and I'm not gonna listen to a clerk because you know nothing, and I've got all these degrees, and I've got this and that, and I'm not gonna listen to you
Well,
because
you
you know.
can't know everything, you know.
Well, absolutely.
This is one area
That they don't know. They don't know, and they don't like to be informed that they don't know much about a certain subject. You know, I had heard, one of the physicians that I was actually working with was my age at one of the healthcare organizations. She had just gotten out of medical school, and she was excellent because it was like, whatever you need, and she was willing to provide you with whatever you needed to make that function. It made sense to her. You know, but you've got some physicians that, of course, are resistant to change, or, they're just kind of stuck in their ways, and they don't want to be told what to do, and they don't want to, kind of go along, they're doing their job and just leave me alone. I'm going to do it the same way I've always done it because, that's the way I know to do it, and that's how I'm going to do it, and you can't tell me differently. You do have headstrong people like that. They get kind of into that comfort zone, and they're not going to budge. But when that physician had done that, it was really funny because, I felt like I was like, oh my, I shouldn't have done that. I'm like thinking I shouldn't have done that. And then we actually formed an excellent relationship, and he was doing, providing me with a lot more. He had all of his charts done when he needed to have his charts done. He was excellent. And, it was like one morning he had called and he was talking to me on the phone, and I was willing to get off the phone, and he said, I love you. And I was like, what the heck? And then he called back and he says, oh my God. For a minute I thought I was on the phone with my daughter. But it was like, I honestly, just by me kind of saying to him, I'm sorry, but you're insulting my intelligence. I'm trying to help you. I want you to be reimbursed because, this is his bread and butter just as much as it is anybody else's. What do I get from it? I got an hourly wage, but it was just trying to, address that. And it went a long way. It went a long way. So some positions, you're going to run into some that are willing to, do whatever you need them to do. You have some that are already seasoned out there that know what they need to do. You have some that are going to tell you, no, it should be this code, and you have to show them the rationale as to why, no, it's this code. It's par for the course when it comes to this type of coding. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. All right, so why don't we try out number 6? Why don't we try out number 6? We have, again, an office visit. And what do we know about this type of patient in taking a look at this? They are a new patient, right? So we can see that it's a new patient. So we have our place of service. We have our type of patient. So those are 2 components that we have fulfilled of our 4. So now we have our chief complaint of shortness of breath and fatigue. Documentation has given us quite a bit of information here.